Imagine walking through the financial heart of London. Something on the pavement catches your eye. A piece of steel the size of a human arm, cold and heavy. You don't know what it is, but you're sure of one thing: it doesn't belong there. You look up, more than 200 meters above you. The sharp, sloping face of one of London's most impressive skyscrapers disappears into the clouds. The building the press has nicknamed the Cheesegrater. Somewhere up there, a structural bolt had snapped in half and fallen onto the street. It could have hit you. This isn't just a story. This happened. Within hours, security tape goes up, entrances are diverted, and engineers start asking the same question everyone else is thinking. So how on earth can a brand new skyscraper end up literally raining steel? This is the story of the Leadenhall Building, a 225-meter office tower in the heart of the City of London. It doesn't rise straight up like a conventional tower. It leans back at a 10-degree angle. That slope isn't just a visual stunt. It's a genius idea from prize-winning architect Richard Rogers. To meet one of the oldest planning rules in London, new buildings must protect key sightlines towards St. Paul's Cathedral, the 17th-century landmark that dominates the historic skyline. Londoners immediately called the giant wedge of glass and steel the Cheesegrater. Structurally, it's unusual. Most skyscrapers rely on a thick concrete core in the middle, a vertical spine that carries gravity loads and resists wind. The Cheesegrater does the opposite. Its main stability comes from a perimeter steel megaframe, a giant exoskeleton of diagonal braces running up the outside. Elevators and stairs sit in a separate yellow service tower at the back. Every intersection in that exoskeleton is locked together with custom, high-strength bolts, about 3,000 megabolts in total. Each one is roughly the size of a human forearm. If those connections fail, the load paths through the frame change. The building is designed to survive the occasional broken bolt. But in late 2014, they didn't have occasional, they had a pattern. The story starts a decade earlier. In 2004, Rogers' firm was commissioned to design a new commercial tower in the dense cluster of the City of London, while preserving views of St. Paul's. Rogers' solution was simple and radical. Instead of a vertical wall of glass, he tilted the facade back. Visually, it worked. Critics called it one of the most elegant additions to London's square mile. Tenants lined up. Underneath the architecture, engineers built a megaframe unlike almost anything London had seen. Massive diagonal steel braces crisscrossed the facade. At each node, thick steel plates and high-strength bolts tied everything together. Around 3,000 custom bolts were designed to carry extreme loads in tension. By July 2014, the tower opened. Tenants moved in. Lawyers, brokers, and bankers were soon working at desks inside a brand new icon. Everything seemed routine. 3 months later, the first bolt failed. On the 5th of November, 2014, a construction worker noticed that arm-sized piece of steel on the ground. Investigations traced it to a connection node around the 15th floor. A bolt had fractured and fell about 60 feet before it hit the hoarding. The developer cordoned off the base of the building as a precaution and issued a calm public statement. The structure was safe. The tower had been designed to tolerate isolated bolt failures. Then a second bolt broke, then a third. Isolated was no longer convincing. From the street, it looked like a brand new skyscraper shedding random pieces of metal. Inside the engineering reports, the picture was far scarier. The second bolt had fractured at a different connection and partially fallen, but remained caught in the steelwork. The third one didn't hit the ground only because of temporary tethers. Without those tethers, a steel component the size of a human arm could have fallen more than 150 feet onto one of the busiest pedestrian zones in the financial district. Engineers mobilized fast. The question was simple and terrifying. Why are brand new, high-strength structural bolts snapping after only a few months in service? The answer turned out to be so small, you can't see it, even under an ordinary microscope. On a molecular level, steel is a crystalline lattice of iron atoms arranged in repeating patterns. Made properly, that lattice gives steel its unusual combination of strength and flexibility. It can carry enormous loads and still deform a little instead of shattering. But there is one element that can quietly ruin that structure from within: hydrogen. Hydrogen is the smallest atom in the periodic table. When it gets into steel during manufacturing, heat treatment, or surface coating, it can slip into the tiny gaps between iron atoms in the lattice. It just sits there, like grains of sand jammed into a hinge. Under high tension, the kind of constant pull a structural bolt experiences in a megaframe connection, those hydrogen atoms act as stress concentrators. Microscopic cracks start to form around them. Those cracks grow slowly, link up, and eventually reach a critical size. Then, with no visible warning, the entire bolt fractures. From the outside, the steel can look perfect, right up until the moment it fails. This phenomenon is called hydrogen embrittlement. The more highly stressed and high-strength the steel, the more vulnerable it can become. That was exactly the profile of the cheese grater's bolts. Laboratory analysis of the fractured bolts confirmed it. The steel itself wasn't undersized, and the bolts hadn't been badly installed on site. They were embrittled from within. And here's the worst part. You can't reliably tell which bolts are affected just by looking at them. They all look fine. So, engineers and the developer faced a brutal conclusion. They weren't dealing with 3 bad bolts. They were potentially dealing with 3,000. At this point, the cheese grater's owners had 2 impossible choices: evacuate a brand new skyscraper, or replace thousands of critical structural bolts one by one, while thousands of people kept working inside. Either way, someone was about to pay very real money for a problem caused by atoms you can't even see. British Land and its partners chose the harder, more expensive path: surgery on a living building. Tenants stayed operational. Behind the scenes, engineers designed a method to swap bolts without ever letting the megaframe lose support. Temporary steel jacks and braces were installed around each critical connection. Those jacks took over the load from the bolt. The suspect bolt was then unfastened, removed, and replaced with a new, re-specified version less susceptible to hydrogen embrittlement. The new bolt was tightened, the load was transferred back, and the temporary support removed. Then they moved to the next bolt, and the next, and the next. This didn't finish in a weekend. The replacement program, originally hoped to wrap up by late 2015, stretched into 2017. While that was happening, the legal chain reaction kicked in. Each company in the chain blamed the others. 4.5 years of litigation followed. Manufacturers, contractors, and developers hired metallurgists and forensic experts to argue over who should have caught what and when. Each side spent millions on lawyers. In April 2019, the parties reached a confidential settlement. No one publicly accepted blame. By then, something else had happened. The cheese grater, freshly re-bolted, was once again a financial trophy. In 2017, British Land and its partner sold the building to Hong Kong-listed CC Land for about £1.15 billion, roughly 4 times its original construction cost. The buyer knew about the bolt saga. They bought it anyway. In 2018, the building won awards from the Royal Institute of British Architects. Judges praised its elegance and structural clarity. No one mentioned the raining bolts, but across the high-rise industry, the lesson stuck. Bolt specs, coating processes, and testing standards were tightened. Hydrogen embrittlement moved from an obscure line in a textbook to a live risk baked into every major design review. The Leadenhall incident didn't end in tragedy. It ended in new standards, a massive repair bill, years of legal argument, and a £1 billion sale. But it left one uncomfortable question hanging over every high-strength steel connection in every modern tower. If microscopic hydrogen hidden inside a bolt can turn a £286 million landmark into a safety risk, what other invisible choices are holding up the cities we walk through every day?